228. Hi there, everybody. Welcome to Ask Joe. My name's Joe Gilder. If you've never seen a video from me before, I run a website called Home Studio Corner. You don't have to go to the website. You're here probably on YouTube. I've been running it since 2009. I'm a musician. I'm a producer, audio guy, and I release lots of music out of a home studio, and then I run Home Studio Corner to help folks like me who are trying to make music in their home studios, help them do it better. Fun fact, we do this podcast every week, Tuesdays, 1 p.m. Central. We do it live, right here, streaming from my home studio. It's pretty fun. If you can ever make it, I would urge you to. That's where we got a fun group of folks that hang out in the chat and ask questions. They give me ideas for stupid intros. It's just a blast, and you should come hang out with us. By the way, I'm working on, well, not working on, but I'm planning to be working on some new t-shirts, so I can come up with better ideas than this. But who can tell me what that stands for? Anybody? First one to tell me what GIRATS, the dumbest acronym in the world, stands for, gets a prize. Okay, so what I want to talk about today is omelets. I know, it's a dumb topic, but we're going to get to your questions here in just a second. But before we do that, I've been on this kick lately of learning how to make an omelet. Turns out they're hard to make. You got to do the eggs, and then you got to cook one side and get it into a nice little circle. Then you got to flip the whole thing without jacking it up. Then you add all your ingredients like the ham and the spinach and the onion and the tomato, and then you fold it, and then maybe some cheese, and you fold it again. And I've done it probably 5 times so far. And the 5th time, it looked something like an omelet by the time I was done with it. But the first 4, it just looked like someone had killed something and then hacked it up and put it on a plate. So that that is going to tie into what I'm talking about here. I've talked all the time, and I just wrote an article about this, about how, and yeah, you got to put hot sauce on your omelet, by the way. That's just the way to do it. About how, like, when you're getting good at songwriting or producing or mixing, you just got to do it a lot. Right? You got to write 50 songs if you want to get a couple of good ones, especially when you're starting out. My assistant is bringing me coffee. Thank you, assistant. Can you say hi? Hi. That is the most you're ever going to get Pam Gilder on Ask Joe. She's leaving us. She says one day she'll do it. I don't believe her. Anyway, what was I saying? You got to, there's this element of you just got to do it over and over. But here's the thing, and I think it's easy for me to say, just write more songs and you'll get better. Problem with that advice is if you don't also work on knowing what a good song is and learning a little bit about the craft, you could just be writing horrible songs forever. They won't necessarily get better. That's why when I started making omelets, I didn't try it because I had no clue how to start. So I found an article on how to make an omelet in 3 minutes or whatever, and I read it. And then I took that and emulated that and did it horribly. And then the next day, I learned a few things from making 2 omelets the first day, made 2 the next day, a little bit better, and progressively better. Tried something on the 3rd day that didn't work at all, tried a bigger pan. That was a total failure. And just along the way, getting a little bit better at this whole omelet thing. Well, guess what? That's the same way it works. No, I don't put ketchup on my omelet. Come on now. Hot sauce, yes, but no. So you get progressively better at the thing, but you have to kind of start from somewhere. You got to know, like, if I just said, I'm going to intuitively figure out this omelet thing, it would have taken me 8 times as long, and I probably still wouldn't have gotten there. I needed someone else to show me. That's why Home Studio Corner exists, right? Wherever you are in the journey, you get stuck in places, especially early on when you're starting out. You don't know what you don't know, and so you're just trying to find just some sort of recipe that you can follow and then practice, because otherwise you're literally completely randomly turning knobs and pushing buttons and recording stuff, and you have no focus whatsoever. That's why I do Home Studio Corner. So if you're here on the live stream, just to be completely honest with you, I'm hoping this connects with you and adds value, and I'm hoping I can earn your subscription. Or maybe you sign up to my email newsletter, and then maybe you become a VIP member, or buy one of my courses, or come to an event, or hire me to play guitar like I was doing this morning for my boy Julian. Did another song for him. He's in France, artist, does like songs and rap over acoustic parts. It's great. Anyway, all that to say, there is value in going it alone in the sense of pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to make this work. But you can only do that so much if you kind of know how the game works to begin with. And if you don't, it helps to get help from someone else. So if songwriting's your thing, go learn from some great songwriters. I've got a series of videos. There's probably 10 to 15 of them. There's a playlist on my YouTube channel called Songwriting Corner where I write songs start to finish. Almost all the songs that I wrote last year for the 4 EP challenge, the 3 EP challenge, most of those I wrote on camera, just start to finish, hour and a half. Beginning of the video, there's no song. By the end, there's a song. Is it like songwriting theory? No, but you can watch me do it and then learn a few lessons from that. Then go do it on your own, write a bunch of bad songs, and you might get a good one. Boom. I'm going to get drafted into the pros of Boomtown because my boom game is on point today. The last several weeks, I'm really feeling like I'm in my stride, and I got to give the other guys a lot of credit. But yeah, my boom game is happening right now. So hold on, my screen's not advancing. I hate it when it does that. Okay, so now we've gotten through the omelet section of the podcast. Now it's the good part. It's the bacon, where I'm going to answer your questions. So if you're here live, if you've already asked a question, ask it again, because I'm not going to be able to scroll back up and see it. But now you may ask, and I've got your chat right here in front of me. Right here in front of me. Hey, y'all, I'm Paula Dean. And I'm going to read your questions and try to answer as many as I can. And if I don't know, I'm not gonna know. And I'm just if you're new, I don't know if my buddy Andy Freeman is here on the chat, but we were hanging out yesterday, and he said you should just, when people ask you what plugins you use, you should just kind of sit back and go, "You're new, aren't you?" Because I don't use a lot of third-party plugins at all. I just go with the stock stuff and make it work. So now there's no topic. You can ask about audio, music, songwriting, mixing, recording, business, omelets. Really, anything is fair game. Chris, you want me to come to the UK? I would love to. Let's figure something out. Could we do an event that would get enough people there that would buy my plane ticket out there? Because that would be mainly the main hang up there. I don't want to pay for it. Will you pay for it? Okay. Mastering your own songs. Rick. So there's a couple things to think about when mastering your own songs. Well, let's talk about the benefits of having someone else master your stuff. The biggest one, other than they probably just have more experience mastering and are better than you at mastering, the biggest one is it's someone else's ears listening to your stuff. It's a final set of ears before your music is done. And it's nice to have that sometimes. Even if it's someone of like kind of equal talent as you or equal skill level, just having someone else put their ears on it, either to offer feedback or to actually do the mastering, can be really helpful and help maybe expose a few of your blind spots. I've had clients who've hired me to master something, and what I sometimes ask them to do, because they'll say, "Hey, can you master this?" And I'll say, "Sure, here's the deal, let's do it." And then they'll say, "Hey, can you give me feedback if there's anything that needs to be fixed in the mix before you finish mastering so I can fix that?" And it's a great question, but obviously if I'm sitting down, like I'll schedule it out a few weeks, month in advance, and then I'll sit down the day of, download the tracks, master the thing. So there's no time to like send it back for revisions, because I've booked the hour or two to get the job done, and I'm done. So that doesn't work for me. So what I'll tell them is, why don't we do this? Why don't you purchase a package of mix critiques from me, and then you send me the songs, I'll do full critiques where I sit down and listen and record it, much like this. It's just minus the video. It's just audio. You hear your song, I pause it, I make feedback. It's usually 10, 15-minute audio file that you get back, giving you almost a recipe, just like omelets, for what to do to fix the mix or to improve it if there's anything that needs improving. And then you can make those changes. Then they'll send it to me for mastering. So that's one thing to do. Or somebody hired me to critique their album, their full EP. This is Corey Howard. And then after that, he hired me to master it because he'd made such improvements. He was like, "Yeah, I'm going to give it to you." So this isn't a commercial for me to master your stuff or to do critiques. It's getting feedback from someone else is really valuable. And if that's the main thing you're getting out of having someone else master, that's still a good deal and worth doing. Now, I actually mastered all my own stuff last year. So all those 3 EPs last year, I mastered myself. mostly because I was doing them all usually in a month period, and I had a deadline, and I would get done with the mixes the day before the deadline. There's just no time to say, hey, buddy, can you master this real quick overnight and get it back to me? So I would just do it myself. And obviously there's lots of benefits to having someone else do it. You can reverse those to figure out the bad reasons to do it on your own. Somebody tell me who was the first to get it right at the source comment, by the way. So GIRATS, also known as the world's dumbest acronym, stands for get it right at the source. It's this thing that I've been saying. If you followed the Simply Recording podcast that I do with Graham Cochran, it's kind of dead. Our very first episode was called Get It Right at the Source. And what that means is so many people want to find a cool new trick to fix their bad recordings with a cool mixing plugin or trick or tactic or hack, when in reality they need to fix the recording. And a lot of times fixing the recording comes down to getting better at recording. So, get it right at the source. I say it a lot. I use the acronym a lot. You can't really say GIRATS. It doesn't really work, but you'll see it in my writing a lot. So, and actually I have a cheat sheet if you haven't checked it out. If you haven't checked out my cheat sheet, come on. Go to recordingcheatsheet.com. Cheat is spelled with 2 E's and cheat is EA and sheet is 2 E's. I spell it wrong every time. And go download it. It's essentially a get it right at the source manual. Gives you kind of 12 habits to deal with. If you can get those in place, your recordings will become way better. So anyway, and if your recordings become better, your mixes become better. That's what that's all about. So somebody let me know who won, who said that first so I can give you something. I need an assistant here to read the chat and tell me what's happening. Is there a mix critique aspect in dueling mixes? No, there's not, unless you win the monthly drawing, and then we'll do a critique of your song. There's just too many people. If we critiqued everyone's mixes, we would never leave our studios and do anything else, which is a good problem to have, but also makes it would be nice. But it's never actually been a part of dueling mixes. Any thoughts on tempo mapping, having a grid follow performance? If you decided not to record with a click, just stick with it. I don't see any point in going in and mapping out beat by beat to a grid so that then you can play MIDI notes in and then be sloppy, and then you can hit quantize and have it quantize. You played without a click to begin with because you wanted a little bit of sloppiness there, so why are you trying to go back on your sloppiness now? Just embrace it. If the kick drum and the bass aren't together, go manually, just edit them. Just do it. Just move it to where it needs to be visually. This needs to line up with this. Great. Let's keep moving. I don't see any, it just seems like a waste of time to snap it to a grid. Now, I know there are probably instances where that makes sense, especially if you're having to sync to other things or whatever, but I just don't. If I'm going to go without a click, there's a reason I went without a click, and I'm not going to try to then retroactively apply a click to it. It just doesn't make sense. What if the song is perfect? It's never perfect. All right, I'm missing a bunch of questions. All right, now y'all are all talking. It's not. Anyway, let me keep going. This is from Tomas. Says, just built a home studio. Came from a tour bus. I guess European tour doing front of house. Still not confident and don't know what to do to get bands sending me mixes. I feel like I live in nowhere in Czech Republic and no one cares. Well, the video I put up that just went up today called How to Get Paying Clients talks about that. The name of the game is value. You got to be valuable. No one's going to come find you if you're not valuable. And if you are valuable but no one knows about you, same problem. So your two things are obscurity, nobody knows who you are, or value, you're just not valuable enough for the market to come to you and to lay their mixes at your feet and say, please mix my stuff. And getting into just doing online mixing stuff, that's kind of the dream. I was talking to a guy this week. That's his goal, is to just do online mixing. And that's fine, and it's doable, but the people who are doing that have put a lot of work and built up a lot of relationships. And I feel like starting out, if you want to do this, especially as you're living, and you want to start, you'll hear people give you advice. You need to niche down. You need to really figure out what the one thing you're going to do is, and then kind of exclude everything else and focus on that. Well, when you don't have any customers, you can't do that. You don't even know what your one thing's going to be because you don't know what the market's going to be willing to pay for. So instead of honing down to something super specific, I think you should do everything. If you have anyone, especially starting out, that's giving you their attention, figure out a way to work with them. Do it for free at first if you have to, and then charge them something, and just take every gig that you can get and go pursue and make relationships and be valuable to people and continue to work and prime that pump. If you've ever been in sales, I feel like I worked at Sweetwater Sound. I usually wear the t-shirt. Straight out of college. Worked there, was in sales there for 3 years. It's a 100% commission sales job. I sit at a desk in a cubicle. I've got my phone, little headset dealy bob, and I'm just making phone calls. That's how I made my living for 3 years. Out of college, first job, real job, other than college jobs. By the way, did I ever tell you I worked for UPS for 2 months in college, loading trucks at 3 in the morning? Talk about a bad job. Actually, it was a good job. I was horrible at it. Anyway, first real job out of college is at Sweetwater, and I realized, oh, if I don't do this and sell stuff, I'm not going to make any money. And part of the game there, starting out, I had no customers, so I could sit and wait for someone to call and make an occasional sale, or I could go call all these existing customers that had bought in the past and just were currently not buying or hadn't bought anything or didn't have a salesperson. And so it's a lot of that kind of cold calling thing. And say what you will about phone sales, and maybe you don't like the way that Sweetwater calls you, or maybe you love it, but it's the way that that business works. It's a relationship-based kind of business. So I had to call a lot of people. And if I called, I had to call 100 people just to get 10 of them to maybe even answer the phone or call me back. And then of those 10, maybe one of them might buy something in the next year. And then I'd probably make $20 off of that commission. So like those were the kind of scales in place. So for you to think, man, I just want to go, I want to like post on my Facebook account to my 400 friends, hey, I want to mix someone's song, and that's your business plan, it's not going to work. You may get a gig from that. But if you're doing this as a business, you need another gig and another one. This whole pipeline thing, you ever hear salespeople talk about that? You need a lot of people that you're interacting with so that the small percentage of those that buy something there'll be enough of them to buy enough stuff to hire you enough to be a full-time income. That's the game, right? That's just business 101, sales 101, marketing 101. I just crossed the 50,000 mark on YouTube for subscribers, which I'm super thankful for. I feel like I was stuck in the 40s for like years and years and years. And that's how many people I've had to reach through YouTube to get a portion of those to sign up for my email newsletter, and then a portion of those to maybe buy something and become a VIP member or hire me to play on something. So that's the game. So if you're not willing to do that big of a game to try to help 50,000 people in the world so that you can have a few hundred that'll come buy something, then you just need to find another gig, and don't even bother down this road, because you're not going to get there doing just tiny little movements. I'm not saying you have to work all day every day and ignore your family and be basically an undesirable person just to make the money, but you've got to be willing to really create value before you receive payment. It's like if there's a fireplace, I can't say, hey, give me some heat, and then I'll put some wood on there. It doesn't work that way. I've got to put wood on there, build the fire before it's going to give me any heat. It's the same with this. So anyway, sorry, that was a really long rant and didn't really answer your question, but that's just, I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Let's see. Okay, so y'all are saying that Kip, I think, won. If you would shoot me an email, Kip, and we'll figure out some fun prize for you. Maybe like a course, like Understanding EQ, Understanding Compression. Do you have one of those? Pick one of my courses. Go to homestudiocorner.com/store and pick one, and I'll give it to you for free if you don't have it already. Let's see. Guitar Freden. Why do you write all music with a Christian topic? It's hard for a lot of people to listen to since we are atheists. Better to focus on feelings instead so that you don't exclude all of us. That's an interesting question. If you go back and actually listen, you might be confusing me with Graham Cochran. His stuff is very like, for the most part, it's straight like scripture set to music, which I get. If you're an atheist, that's probably not going to appeal to you that much. My stuff is actually way more on the side of like talking about emotions and life, with the occasional probably too veiled reference to Christianity and scripture and things like that. So go listen to some of my music and then see if you still feel that way. Because yeah, I'm not saying anything wrong with being overtly Christian, and I wouldn't apologize for that either. But yeah, I would like to write music that appeals to a lot of people. And I feel like I'm getting there. But good question. I'm glad you're here. I bought a Taylor from Sweetwater, and I feel bad because my salesman Luke always calls to see how it goes, and I never have time to talk. Wonder if he has a YouTube channel. Joel, Luke is one of my best friends in the world. He and I started around the same time at Sweetwater. Tell him I said what's up. And don't feel bad. It's just the game. If you ever want to buy something, you might remember his name, Luke, right? See, if nothing else, you've remembered Luke at Sweetwater. When and if you need to buy something else, he might be one of the guys you call, which is the whole point, right? Let's see. That question from someone with lots of cool letters in their name. I'm guessing Greek or something. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name. Says, hey, Joe, when mixing a song from an album or EP, do you think about the other songs from that album? Does that influence your mixing decisions, or is it a task for mastering? It's a good question. So I usually pick a song to start with on the album. Preferably, like, I'll say, hey, what's your favorite song on the album? What's like the single or the best song? And I'll mix that one first. And I'll do a full, give it my best effort mix on that one. And then when that one's my brain just stopped working. When that one's done, I may even send it off to say, hey, how are you feeling about this mix? And if they come back and say, this is perfect, this is exactly what we want, a couple changes, but yes, it's in the right direction, then I'll use that mix as my basis for the rest of them. What I'll actually do is save a template in Studio One of that mix, create a new song from that template, and then import the tracks for song number 2 into that template. So the drums will go into those exact tracks and will sound almost exactly the same. Bass, vocals, guitars, and things like that. Still plenty of tweaking to do because every song is unique, and some would say that's too much of a copy and paste approach. You still have to listen, you still have to make adjustments, but it allows you to keep a lot of the same effects and like reverbs and overall tonal settings for things like the drums in place. So it's just faster to get to that sound again. So if I spent an hour on the drum mix in the first song and tried a lot of things and found this is the setting, the collection of settings that I want for the drums here, then I just have to import the next song into it. And it's already either all the way there or close to there. The first time I did this, actually, it's not something it's funny, I kind of backed into doing this. I was mixing an album on this mixer, not this one, but the previous one, the Studio Live 24, the original one. And I think it was an EP. So I mixed the first song and I got done, and I was actually running the tracks through the mixer to just mix on the board because it just seemed like fun to me. And ran them through, finished the first mix, pulled up the second mix and started to route them through the board, hit play, and I thought, this already sounds pretty mixed because I was going through the same channels with all the same EQs and compressors and stuff that I had already used on the first mix. And that was when I had the idiot moment of, this is how I'm going to mix this a lot faster than I thought. You can do the same thing with templates inside your DAW. So if that answers your question, that's probably, I'm giving way long answers today. I'm sorry. Very sorry. What's the best takeaway you got from audio school? Man, I don't know. I think the importance of getting feedback on your work from someone who can actually give you feedback and then say, hey, here's how to fix that. I remember when I was there, they didn't talk about mixing at all. We learned about recording, we learned about signal flow, we learned a little bit about mic placement and all the like nerdy stuff, like here's what a bloom line pair looks like and how you set it up and all that, which is fine. But we never, when we did like a final project for a semester, we would record all this stuff and maybe it's just one song and then we'd play it. So the final, like, what's it called? The recital that you do in like music school. It was kind of that version, except we'd come in with a CD and play it through the big speakers in the control room for the professors. And they would say, I remember once the guy was like, the drums are too boxy. And so I kind of said, okay. And it wasn't the kind of place where I could say, all right, sit down with me now and tell me what that means. I didn't know what that meant. And then also tell me how to fix it. So just so you know, boxy usually means there's too much mid-range, like 400 hertz or so. Almost every time I mix drums, I'm taking a pretty wide EQ cut in the 400 hertz range. That solves that problem. It's stuff like that I really could have used, which is part of why I started Home Studio Corner, because there just wasn't that much information out there about mixing. And yeah, that's probably my biggest takeaway is I would like, there needs to be this element of here's what I hear, here's what's wrong with it, here's how you fix it. And there's not a lot of that out there. So I don't know if that's a takeaway or not. Krivas says, try to be the best at one genre or just okay on all genres. Try to be the best at everything you do. Option number 3. If you can't be good at something, then maybe don't do it. But I tend to think I could mix a hip-hop record as good as I can mix a rock record. It might take a little longer. I might need to do a few more revisions based on what they want. I might need to listen to some more hip-hop records while I'm mixing that to make sure I'm in the ballpark of what they're expecting. But if you're good at mixing, you're good at mixing. It's just all about balance. What the tracks are becomes somewhat irrelevant. But I would say there's option 3. Instead of I'm either really good at one genre or okay at lots of genres, why does it have to be either or? Nothing in life is either or, by the way. I choose option 3, be really good at everything I do in whatever the genre is. I noticed I do that where I vocalize between. I think my dad used to do that. He does do that. I'm becoming my dad. It's happening right here, live on YouTube. Hey, Joe, how do you get a whole album to sound the same? That was just what I said about the template thing. Chris says, have you ever mic'd the back of a guitar amp? I saw Warren Hewart do it, and I was intrigued, wondering what your take is. Yes, the song we're mixing next month, I haven't done it, but the song we're mixing next month at Dueling Mixes, they did mic the back of the cabinet. And if it's an open back cabinet, like my Deluxe Reverb has an open back, the idea is you can just get different sound from it, blend it with the front mic, flip the polarity on them. And I used, in the mix that I'm doing, that I did for next month of Dueling Mixes, I did use the back mic on some of the guitars. And it was one of those, it wasn't like night and day. I could have taken it or leavened it. But I kept it, and together it felt like a little better sound than just any one mic by itself. So I probably won't do it much just because I would rather have just one mic and make it work just for simplicity's sake. But it's totally a legitimate approach. Did you go to school for a diploma or a bachelor's? Bachelor's, but I did get a diploma. It was a bachelor's of science in recording industry production and technology. Something silly. I've learned more sitting in my studio than I did there in some ways. Mark says, I just invested in a pair of Sennheiser HD 650 open back headphones. Have you tried them? They look similar to the ones on your desk. They are similar because they do exactly the same. These are like 8-10 years old, so they're starting to chip away. The paint's chipping here. I love them. I use them a lot. They're great. Great for mixing, and I use them a lot for mastering as well. It's the final. I know that my room isn't messing with my head when I use these because they're headphones. Great tool. And you may think, oh, those are $300, $500. That's expensive for headphones. Yeah, but it's cheap for speakers. And if these are actually better than those, it starts to make a lot more sense, and you're getting a deal when you think of it that way. You're getting a deal. In the box summing or outboard analog summing, what's your preference? In the box, because it's faster. And that guy I mentioned earlier, Andy, I was having coffee with yesterday, he said, you seem like you're just very practical. And I was like, yes, and circle gets the square. I'll try things. Like I did a video where I ran my mix through one of those stereo tube preamps over there, and it was cool, sounded a little bit better, but I wouldn't do it because that means I've got to do it all in real time. And when you're working on lots of stuff, which I usually am, the fact that I can render a song in a minute and have it automatically go into the Dropbox folder so I can go over there and play with the kids while it's uploading to Dropbox and send the client an email saying it's on the way, here's the link. That, to me, is worth any difference in sound quality, if that makes sense. Sweetwater does not sell Roswell mics, I don't think. They should. I got mine directly from Roswell. So small operation, you should totally buy from them. Do I push up the upper mid-range on the Sennheisers? No, I just listen. I just use them to listen. How do you approach managing mic bleed on drum tracks? I don't manage it. I almost always just leave it alone. I like the sound of the bleed because it makes it sound more real. But if it's becoming a problem, I'll usually I'll go in and chop out parts of the toms that are bleeding that are causing the problem. Otherwise, I just leave it alone. See ya.